give me the word. Okay, good evening, everyone. We're calling to order this regular meeting of the Charter Revision Commission for April 9th, 2025. May I have the roll call?
Brown, Cochran,
Here.
Hoganson, Knopfschneider, Metz. Here. Neal. Pahulka.
Here.
Weaver. Here.
Did we do we need to do the resolution,
I
excuse me.
have two resolutions, yeah.
One for Jennifer.
Yeah, I put one together real quick. But we have Jim's first. Jim is out of town.
Okay, Jim's is in the packet, correct. Okay, may I have a motion to accept the resolution excusing Jim Brown for personal reasons?
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is approved. May I have a motion accepting the resolution excusing Jennifer Knopfschneider for illness?
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion is approved. Okay, approval of the agenda, Mrs. Manowski, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Nope. Jennifer's resolution was the only change.
Just a voice vote to approve the agenda? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes of March 12th. Let us chance to look through those. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? May I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 12th?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved. Excuse me. Communications. Karen, do you want to take this, or do you want me to do this?
Yeah, I can just tell you what I've got so far. So the Housing Commission just put out their newsletter, and I made a copy for everybody. They did let us have a little blurb, which was nice, with our QR code for the survey. So I think they would be willing to do that again for us, which was nice, but yeah. So that'll go out to everybody and they have quite a few residents in all of their properties, so hopefully we'll get something anyway, some clicks. So we might want to think about what we want to do maybe in May and June and, come up with a plan. Maybe pick a little topic or something, or, I don't know. Housing, farmer's markets. Farmer's market is on Friday. It's gonna run from May 9th through October 31. And from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. They are still considering the Saturday thing, so I didn't put any dates down because I don't know dates yet. But I did put in every Friday on this list and just 3 slots if people want to go through and pick. I know we had discussed maybe not every week, so you can choose what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Is that okay? Let me just start with you and we'll pass it around.
Make sure Stacy gets it.
Yeah.
Question, may I ask, on the farmer's market, are we having a representative at the farmer's market to talk about?
Yes.
Okay,
That's the plan.
fantastic.
We're thinking,
The table and the
we
sign,
have a table, we have a trifold, so we can be showing people our work in progress. We have informational materials, and by golly, we have bookmarks. We have lots and lots of bookmarks.
thinking,
We get a lot of people who go through there, so hopefully some people stopping. So, Ryan, I guess Josh had asked me about the application. Do you have the application? Are you sending it back to him then?
I'm gonna send it back. I just wanna make sure everybody's on board with it and,
Yeah.
is he gonna charge us the fee?
No,
No, okay.
no, no fee.
That's what I had to check.
Who is doing this?
Josh.
Josh Piles is the one who's in charge of the farmer's market, but I know he had said he
no, I
was to Brian too.
I'm sorry, I thought we were onto TikTok. No, okay. No charge for us to have our table there, that's great.
No, he's not charging us.
Now TikTok. Who's doing TikTok?
That has gone beyond me now.
Okay, I came in and talked to Steve about TikTok. They're just starting it up. He advises us to keep it under 30 seconds. You know, just real quick dashes of information. I was hoping everybody could do one. Everybody would pick a subject that's near and dear to their heart that they can convince people on in 30 seconds. And we could just film them with our phones and give them to Steve and he'll post them for us.
Then come in here and he would do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not.
So if people want to grab an item that is near and dear to your heart, and we'll see what we can do with them. I don't see any smiling
I am
faces.
not smiling. It's not in my wheelhouse.
I was expecting song and dance, Amy, come
I
on.
would like to take my snippet.
I don't do any social media, so I'm not really comfortable with doing that. And I don't know how big of a following TikTok actually has in Big Rapids. I know some of the Facebook pages are big. There's like a lot of, I hear a lot in the community about stuff that's posted on several different pages. I don't know if it's similar on TikTok for that, but I thought we had kind of moved away from the Facebook posting other than on our personal pages. So there may be value in it, but it's not something that I choose to not participate in.
And good for you.
Would you be willing to at least write up a 30-second script for a night for a thing and just
If you want to write a script, I would read the script. I don't want to write anything.
I could try doing that, but again, I don't do TikTok, so I don't know what would be catchy enough for the people who actually use it, but I could try.
just if you just got the data in, we could.
I can work on that.
The city's just starting to explore it and other municipalities are using it and they're getting good results because people do.
Okay.
People see it.
Addicting. I hate to
Tell
say
me
it,
about
but
to
it
sing and
is.
dance though.
Well, that's the prerequisite. You must do a little dance. I'm kidding.
Gotta do a shuffle.
If I have to dance, it's gonna be disco, and I'm just warning you right now.
That's all right.
That's the best.
A lot of the TikToks my girlfriend watches, it'll be like somebody talking about like the news or like something else, and they're like doing their makeup.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's something about TikTok where it's like doing like something completely irrelevant
Yeah.
to what you're talking about somehow makes it good. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an idea. We certainly do not have to do it. It is just an option of another way to reach other people. That's all.
It's not a bad idea at all. I just don't do TikTok either.
I had to break up with it because I love it so much.
That's why I don't get on. I think I would just go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened.
In my pajamas for 4 days, like.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Other, do we have any others? My notes indicated from last meeting that someone had mentioned summer bandstand.
Oh,
Again, was gonna ask Scott Cohen.
I asked Josh about that too, and he said we can go set up there anytime we want.
See, and those are two different things, actually, what you're talking about. What Josh organizes and what Scott Cohen organizes are two different sets of concerts there. I just saw Scott today too, and I can reach out to Scott too. Yeah, I can ask Scott about that.
Now, help clarify this for me. When they're doing a concert, I mean, how do we factor into that? You wanna say a blurb about the charter?
We've done it before for Festival of the Arts where because they have obviously the stage and they'll go up and they'll introduce, the band and then whoever is the organization that night or whatever that looks like. And so then you can come up and say a couple of words. Sometimes people will have a table or they'll walk through there. I don't know, when people are trying to listen to music, I'm not really into that. You just want to be able to sit outside in your lawn chair and enjoy the music, I think. But if we could get a couple minutes up there, that might be nice. So we can ask
Actually,
Scott.
if we could just
Yeah, I,
distribute
I
bookmarks
was
to
gonna
the
say, have
sinners
bookmarks
events.
and just say we're rewriting the charter if anyone has input.
Yeah,
30 seconds. That'd be a TikTok I could
that
do.
would be a TikTok.
Yeah, it's not a
Love the
lengthy.
bookmark. I can do Vanillite.
So.
Okay. So you want to reach out to Scott?
Yeah, I can reach out to Scott.
well, Josh gave us permission to have a table there,
Okay,
so
so that, yeah, and,
I was just gonna set up a table before the concert and be out there and hand out stuff and then,
We just need the schedule.
yeah, I'll get Josh's schedule too.
Okay,
Not know that.
very good. Are there any other communications that you wanted to table?
I didn't have anything. I don't know if anybody else has.
Okay. We have no committee reports this evening. Excuse me. So, and no old business this evening. So let us get down to brass tacks here. We had talked with Peter last time about getting started going through the charter a little more closely, get another pair of eyes on it, and his legal expertise, and so he is here with us this evening, and I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Hold on just one second. There's a backside to this.
Madam Chair,
I'll just go with that for now.
Just wanna make sure everybody knew. I'm sorry.
okay, and following the agenda, first item to consider is the preamble. That was short and easy. I see that you have tried to to be very, what can I say, modern and up to date to inclusiveness and diversity and all of those things. And I would, you could do it, that, you know, it has no legal significance as such. Gives some, and that's what a preamble is, that you take a look at the preamble to the, some of the famous documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. My recommendation is just to have a plain, simple preamble that actually, you know, as you had before, I'm not sure that it's necessary to add more, but that's a discretionary item that the commission would have. And the only downside that I have here is that there may be some buzzwords in there that might be objectionable, and somebody's gonna say, yeah, I can't vote for that because of my politics. That's one. And, Madam Chair, what I was thinking of doing today is just, and I don't know, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, to whether we need to take action on this, I would like to perhaps suggest that you give me a nod to say, okay, this is the direction that we want to go, and then I'll give the clerk specific, because I don't have the specific verbiage or language that I want to share with you right now. I just want to get the idea. I have only about 40 or 50 items that I'd like to address this evening. And if I get the words, then I'll ship the language to you, and then perhaps you can present it, or we can present it at the next meeting to say this was our intent, or this complies with our intent. So the question would be, is there any mood regarding the preamble, or are you folks pretty happy with the yellow preamble?
I think we need to remove the term diversity and inclusiveness, not the idea, but the terms, just the words. I always say that without saying diversity and inclusiveness.
I think our intent was to get feedback from the community and do the preamble as the last thing to incorporate values of the greater community.
If that's the philosophy of saying that we'll leave that hold back to the very end, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, in fact, the survey results that we have so far, the values and the ethics, one of the things that came out, two things that came out regularly. One is transparency, and one is respect for all citizens. And maybe something, wording along those lines can replace the diversity and inclusiveness, so that it's not quite such a trigger for people. But that we were, now, of course, I don't know how much longer we're gonna leave the survey up. And I was hoping Ann would be able to give us a report on where we are right now in terms of respondents, even though it's been up for months. We have not been getting great gobs of response from people. But those things at least we can pull out. Transparency, accountability, respect for all citizens. So, yeah, if that's okay, we can just leave that go for a little while longer while we look at more
Sure.
survey results, and then we can come back to that.
We may be able to push for, like, getting values as part of, like, our outreach. So, like, at the farmer's market, we could have a board with a bunch of, like, words written on it for things that people have proposed as values, and it's like, put a check mark if you think this is important to, like, so that people don't have to come up with it on their own, but we can, like, see trends and what's popular, or something along those lines to get quicker, easier feedback than having to, like, fill out a whole survey. I think we do have some options, but if we're still marketing the survey and getting it out in newsletters and things like that, I think we're gonna have to leave the survey open for a while still.
Okay, good.
So I'm just, my note is hold to end on that one. The next item is sort of adding a new chapter. And I call it definitions and maybe general provisions. And because there are certain terms that we use somewhat interchangeably and throughout the charter. And to make it clear, I'd like to add some direction, like all words used in this charter indicating the present tense shall not be limited to the time of the adoption of the charter, but shall extend to and include the time of happening of any event or requirement which for which provisions are made herein. So in other words, that the Home Rule Cities Act, not only as it exists today, but will be as amended and work in the future. So we want to have effectiveness of this not only today, but in the future. The second item I'd like to make sure is that the singular number as we use it also means the plural. And if there's plurals, committees or a committee or committees, we use those interchangeable. Person or persons, we should use, it has the same meaning. So if we reference a singular shall include the plural number shall include the singular, and the masculine gender shall extend to and include the feminine gender and neuter. It's about as neutral as I possibly can get to satisfy that. And, the charters for 10 years have been struggling when, the mayor shall and provide his blah, blah, blah. It's always in the masculine. I noticed you use the word there throughout, but this is, in case we miss one, somebody, I don't want someone to argue that, it's only in the masculine, but masculine may mean also. The third one, person may extend and apply to individuals, partnerships, corporations, association, other legal entities, or combinations thereof. Where in the charter says that no person shall, blah, 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 or every person shall. We want to make sure that it includes companies, right?
I don't want it to include companies. Citizens United proves that for me.
That's your call then.
Yeah,
I would think that it would depend on each
The situation, that's.
situation. Sometimes, like, yeah, of course I want to include corporations, like, do they have to pay tax? Yes. Do they have the same rights as citizens? Maybe not. Like, it depends. Like, I mean, obviously corporations, that's the whole point of a corporation, is that they do get the same rights as a human being. But the purpose of our charter, I don't know that I want to extend all the privileges and our citizens to.
Where in the charter are you looking to
non-entities.
incorporate this?
I would put this at the very beginning so that when somebody reads the charter, they don't have to go to a specific provision to say, does this mean the same thing in all of the provisions?
Okay.
To give some uniformity, unless there is a reason why we should, as you indicate, should separate or have individually addressed. I can't come up with an example right now, but I'm sure that there are certain things that would apply to a person only and not to, voting, for example. Only a person can vote. Corporation can't vote. That might be, I'll take a look at that. That's why I'm presenting that now. That a person will have a question mark. I can clean that up a little bit in terms of rights. Although corporations, by and large have, they pay taxes. Individuals pay taxes.
But a corporation shouldn't be able to vote.
Oh, no, there indeed is a difference.
Are you suggesting this as a separate section before chapter 1?
I'm suggesting that we have a chapter that deals with definitions.
Chapter 1 and everything would be moved down as well.
Yeah, we change the numbering accordingly, so and this has been helpful for people to read because I'm gonna go on to the next word is printed and printing. We talk about, shall include reproduction by photograph, printing, engraving, stenciling, duplicating, blah, blah, blah. And later on, I go to publication. Publication, that should, because at one time we had the public in a local newspaper of general circulation. What is the newspaper of general, the daily newspaper of general circulation here in town?
We have one, Pioneer.
I have no idea what this, well, the print circulation, they also have a digital
Yeah, and anyways, so
that goes to 4 counties.
we have redefined what a publication, it doesn't mean that it's in the printed journal, that we can use the media website and so on, and that term has been approved in other charters by the Attorney General.
I feel like we had conversations way back about that because certain things can only be published in specific ways. And then other things we just changed to like media, or we found a term that we were comfortable using that would incorporate old media and media that doesn't exist yet.
Okay.
So I feel like I understand having the definitions and like linking things together, but I feel like it's more beneficial to actually make sure we have the right words in the right places.
Well, I guess I'd be curious to see what words you have in.
Yeah, we'll see if I can find it.
It's under the.
See, we have the publication of ordinances, we have publication of notices of zoning,
And I think we are required, am I correct in thinking this, that when we're done, we have to print the entire charter in the newspaper?
We do.
No, we have it available.
We should have it
We would do a summary of the charter,
on 3.
maybe the 10 main points and so on, and have copies available at the clerk's office for examination and available on the internet. And you have, or on your homepage, you have that, I mean,
Section 3.1.
I hate it.
Let's see.
3.13.
Oh.
I know, it doesn't make any sense to me either. Like,
No, 3.13, yeah, sorry.
3.2. Oh, yes.
I don't know, it's whatever Ryan wanted her to find.
The clerk's responsibility.
No, it's not there. I remember we talked about that. Now, it wouldn't bother me to have a front section that covers all these things, you know.
And on these, you know, the definitions, we can always say unless specifically otherwise provided. You know, if you have a section that perhaps deviates from the general rule, I think that helps the staff, if they know when you say we shall publish, we know what the definition of publish is in hopefully all cases. You have the global search.
Yeah, I just don't know what the term we actually settled on. So we have something here that says shall be published in available media.
Yeah, that's one of the things we check.
Immediate.
Although that they found media in immediately.
Try publish.
I know there's a few sections where we were very particular about what specific phrase we wanted to use.
And should that vary in the different sections, or should that be sort of consistent throughout?
I think because we went in different directions for different ones, we should make sure we have the right use in each specific situation. But that's my take.
And again, want to make this balances between, well, really three things. What history proves us, what is convenient or good for the staff so that they have, and then what is good for the readers of the charter of that. And the thinking here of having the definitions is that they have upfront, they know what publish means, they know what printing means, they know what his means, or the gender. It's clear that we don't have that. We go to and we can. I'd like to work on that a little bit. And I've only looked closely at the first 3 chapters, so that I haven't looked at some of the other where publication is required, ordinance adoption and the like. That would be, one place to see whether or not we can't, maybe we can have one consistent definition on that. I want to make sure that the word officer, we define what an officer of the city is. We have an appointee. We have officer, we may have department head, then we have an employee, and then we have a volunteer, and those all should be defined as to, what rights that they have or how they fit into the whole structure of government. The term, did you read the term estoppel? Mm-hmm. Anybody have any questions about estoppel?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about estoppel, but, understand the basic idea of it, I think.
The paragraph seemed to explain it pretty well.
Yeah, I think whatever follows, it's basically preventing someone from going back on their word.
Yeah.
No backseas.
And we want to make sure, again, the document is written plain English for the user. You want it. So I define estoppel as being stopped or prevented from denying or asserting something on the grounds that to do so contradicts what already has been admitted or denied, either explicitly in words or implicitly in action.
Section 18.1 is our current no estoppel by representation.
Yeah, and I understand that. When we go out to the festivals, I would like you to ask the citizen Do you want a double provision in your,
I am not asking.
or would you like
Like,
to
that'll
not
start a
have it?
whole different
It's a legal requirement, or it's to the benefit of the city, of course, to have that defense out there. It's in every charter in the state of Michigan, even though that's specifically not required. But I want to make sure we have that. The word default is another thing that we have. What is in default of the city? In other words, to be elected, you have, you cannot hold office in being default to the city.
You can't run for office.
Cannot run for office, okay, and what is the definition of default? And do we use it other places, for example, to get licenses? Can you get a license, if you are in default to the city?
You can't.
We have ordinances
They just revised that ordinance to
included.
add the
Okay,
not paying your taxes to the default.
okay, and then in the default, the definition that I like to use is, shall include being delinquent paying taxes or municipal utility charges or other debt to the municipality for more than 30 days, unless the default is being tested in a court or tribunal. If the person challenges his tax assessment, for example, are we going to remove him from office? I don't think so, but, you know,
It needs to be in there, because we do have default in there, but we don't have any definition of what it is.
okay, so, you know, that's, and I want to just introduce the idea of definitions to you folks, and then depending upon what we come out of this meeting or other meetings, we can always add more definitions where you think that we need to define things, or take definitions out where you think it's redundant, or repetitious, or, you know, not necessary. The word statute, you know, means any public act of the state of Michigan, and amendments thereof, is the definition of a statute. All references to public acts state of Michigan are in effect at the time of reference, to be applied and as amended. The word state law, again, like to statute, state law, like to have consistent language throughout the charter, so we don't, and we use multiple terms, not only you, but everybody else who's writing the charter, so we can be consistent with that, and include the common law. And I don't know if we use the common law, there are certain things, conspiracy, for example, is one that comes out. We don't have a conspiracy statute, we use the common law for conspiracy. All references to numbers in the charter shall be references to the charter, and I want to be careful in using numbers. I like to say as provided by this charter, and not saying section 5.1. Yes, that might be an advantage to the reader, but I noticed already we have changed the section numbers, you know, that where we have moved sections around, and it's so easy to miss. And I would just rather say, you know, as provided by this charter. You know, that's one of the sort of general concepts that I have, and specific, to specific ordinances. And you have that. At some places you have as provided by ordinance, charter, resolution, and so on, and then other places you have by section 80 of the charter or so on. I'd like to make that as consistent as I possibly can. The word city and municipality shall mean, you know, city of Big Rapids. Commission shall mean the city commission of the city of, did I say Grand Rapids?
You said Big Rapids.
Big Rapids.
You're okay.
Did you notice I'm an old person?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have, because we use those words, to make it clear that it is the city commission of the city of Big Rapids. Public utility shall include streets, water, sewer, electric, whatever you have, and maybe even things that don't exist right now. You may go into a utility. For example, some municipalities are starting their own cable system rather than having, so we may change that, define the utilities. Misconduct in office. In our charter provisions, so we wanted to define that, in our ethics provision, and in the ordinance, we have to, here's a ticklish portion. You have an opportunity, how can I say, to ratify the ordinance as is, or maybe change some things as is in the ethics ordinance that you have. For example, I took a quick look at the ordinance, and it does not include the violation of law as an ethics violation.
Doesn't seem necessary.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't seem necessary to me.
That's an ethics violation?
Well, if someone's violated the law, then the law can punish them.
Okay, so should that, and then to the,
The point of an ethics thing is to cover things that aren't covered by the law, right?
And
You shouldn't do this even though you legally can.
it's a higher standard than the legal standard.
Yeah.
No question about that. But then in terms of ethical behavior, if a council member is guilty of a felony or a misdemeanor, or is guilty of a crime, does the council member continue to serve?
You know, the president of the United States can be in prison and still serve as president of the United States.
But let's do better.
Well, I think, I mean,
The reason for that, I think, is because in some cases you can have corruption that would seek to imprison people who are righteous.
That's what you're saying.
And so I don't believe that people who have felonies shouldn't be allowed to vote, or that they can't do good things, or it gets really gray really fast.
No, and understand that, but should the sitting council have the authority to remove one of its members for misconduct, whether it's a ethical standard higher than the law or for a violation of the law?
once it has been proven,
Well, they would,
as opposed
and
to
the procedure,
investigation.
you would have to have a due process hearing where you would have, evidence would be presented. The accused person would have an opportunity to rebut, and there is such a procedure in that ordinance.
So our section 2.6 Code of Ethics basically says the city commission will maintain an ethics policy ordinance. Because what is acceptable today is not what was acceptable 20 years ago, it's not what's gonna be acceptable 20 years from now. So we didn't want to have any requirements in the charter specifically, but said the city has to maintain some code. We didn't want to lock in much there.
There are some basic things, though, that you may want to include in, I think you have already, the conflict of interest provision. And, dealing with family members and so on, make sure that that is the use. We don't have, or I didn't find, the use of city property for personal reasons.
That's in our handbook,
That's in the handbook.
employee handbook.
But
I understand what you're saying, I'm just saying it, we do have one.
When we, the commission then previous commission, when we worked on we were updating the ethics ordinance. And I do remember our city attorney explaining to us the difference between acts that are, can be tried, litigated, versus those that are more aspirational, morality kinds of things that can't really be adjudicated in a court of law because the law doesn't cover that. But the question is whether or not the city government wants to hold these people responsible for malfeasance or whatever the word is, you know, ethical violations.
There are three feasant sisters. Misfeasant, yeah.
Right?
Nonfeasance when you don't do what you're supposed to do, which could be, you know, devastating. Misfeasance is just negligence, or how can I say, neglect or stupidity, really. And then malfeasance, of course, is with a malicious or evil attitude and so on. But one of the things is are you satisfied with the leaving that totally in the hands of the city council, or do you want to give them some basic directions as to what they should include in their ordinance?
I'm not sure, have any of you, others of you actually seen the ethics ordinance?
I haven't read it in a while.
I think it would be good for us to revisit that,
I can email that out to everybody.
yeah, to make sure that we know.
It's on the, you can Google it, or
It's on our website too,
Right.
whatever's easiest.
easy enough to find. So I would maybe take a second look at the ethics ordinance.
I find myself in a real quandary about the work we're doing now. It's kind of ironic that we're talking about the kind of government that I think people want while watching what's happening with ethical violations, and so on and so forth. I certainly want a government that holds itself accountable for misbehavior and bad behavior, and I think that the people would want to hold it accountable for bad behavior. So I think, you know, if we can go back and look at what we have, you're saying that
I think, you know,
the Charter Revision Commission has the opportunity to have the city commission revisit the ordinance or suggest changes to the ordinance?
exactly, yes, because you know, this is the city's constitution. And we can make things unconstitutional. Absolutely, you have a tremendous amount of power here through it in this group. Definition of public record, I want to make sure that the AG's office is obsessed with Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act. We want to make absolutely clear with Band-Aids and suspenders and whatever else the expression is, that is clear for them. And then the definition of family. Would you like to use the second degree of consanguinity or consequent, whatever?
I have no idea what word you're trying to.
Consanguine bloodlines.
And that's exactly, I didn't even want to go there. Family shall include spouse, child, grandchild, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, sister, half-sister, brother, half-brother, spouse of any of them, and all such relating arising out of adoption. So you know who those people are. We recite those. If you want to take a look at them and take out grandma or put in, I don't know, Uncle Jake or so on, we can do that.
We don't even have the word family in the charter.
We do have family.
We do not have family anywhere in the charter.
Really?
We do not use that word.
But how do you establish then, where's the conflict of interest?
You know, about in the ethics.
Yeah.
He's talking
How
about
do you
the ethics.
How do you define a conflict of interest? You know, when you decide on an decide on a request by your son, do you sit on that, or does that create a conflict of interest? Do we allow that? Do you have a problem with that?
Where's the code of ethics referenced in the charter?
In the charter, it's at the,
Why don't I just look in the,
it's at the bottom of the.
2.6.
Whatever we do with the ethics provision, it's got to be clear, it has to be consistent, has to be understandable, and it has to provide for, due process. If we're going to remove or, take any of the benefits of office or employment, we have to have a due process. And then, and I just want to make sure that we have, and this would be, it's normally in the city clerk section, but that all records of the city shall be public unless otherwise provided by law, shall be kept in city offices except where required for official reasons or purposes for safekeeping, except as required for official reasons or purposes of safekeeping to be kept elsewhere. I don't know if Parks keeps records, public safety keeps city records, and they're not in the same building, are they, public safety?
Public safety is down 2 blocks up.
Okay, so that they have their records, but they are still city records, you are still responsible. You're the empress of city records. And no, you smile about that, it's very, very important to do that. And then the other thing, just speaking of city records, and I addressed that in the clerk's position, to establish and comply with the Record Retention Act. We have a record retention schedule approved by the Secretary of State's office and all that, and
Yes.
your subsequent clerk, we may not be doing that for you, but we may be doing that. This is the instructional manual for subsequent office holders. So those are, and then the other thing that I'd like to incorporate there, where an appointee is not specifically, for an acting official, in the absence of the official, some positions we have a deputy, and it's clear your deputy works in your absence and so on. But suppose we have you and your deputy, do you have, I want to have a provision that you can designate, or the department head for a temporary absence can designate as their official acting clerk.
How does that work other places?
I'm sorry?
How does that work in other places? They have a third person that's,
Well, yeah, if you have a third person, if you don't have a third person, then of course you
won't be able to do everything.
It doesn't, but, in larger municipalities, there's the deputy and then maybe the most senior, again, in my office, that I had a deputy, and then the line of succession or responsibility was the most senior person in the office, and I had a memo on file so that, with the clerk, so that they knew who the person of responsibility was if there was an absence. To have some sort of language like that, I'd like to make sure that that's covered.
An office of 2 people.
this is I have my blue pen and my red pen. And my red pen is, you know, what I have to follow up on. So that I'd like to have the general, sort of general provisions and definitions in there. We'll refine that, give it to you to take a look at. Then going to chapter 1, the continuation of the corporation, you know, that is straightforward. The question I have is, why do you have the charter revision members named in the charter? What
It was there before.
We've always done it that way.
It was there
All right,
before.
I,
If it's not necessary, then,
I will,
our names, I believe, are listed at the end of the document.
I,
19?
yeah,
If I had to wager a guess, I would wager that it has to do with being at the very beginning and the charter needing to be approved by a vote and that it needs to be published for people to read. And so by telling the public of Big Rapids who has written this charter, you put it at the beginning because they're not gonna probably read it all the way through. So potentially, even if they see people whose names they trust, then they might just be like, okay, it's fine. Or, I hate that person, I'm gonna keep reading, I don't know. That would be my guess as to the reasoning as to why the names are included there.
you know, you have your table of contents, and so on, and I would just suggest you have like a preface to a novel or a book. Have that list of the charter commissioners. And have you had change on the charter commission? Or have the same members served all the way through?
One of us joined a little bit later, but
We lost one. We lost one to the commission, the city commission.
And that, if you want to recognize the person to say they served from 1901 to 1903, and the other people, you know, the people who served the whole, you don't put the dates on. You know, the temporary people you know, you might identify by dates. So I would suggest to take that out of there and just make that part of the table of contents, or a second page after the table of contents.
kind of like an acknowledgements page is what you're talking about
Exactly,
in a book.
exactly.
Okay.
The interesting thing is, and I guess I'm not going to change it or suggest we change that, but you notice the citation that they have, 1869 LA.
Where are you looking at?
If you take a look on page 1, under continued existence, existing corporation, we have municipal
Yes.
corporation, okay, on Michigan legislature in 1869, yeah, LA. And that's the very, very old-fashioned way of identifying legislative acts of, and so on. Now we use Public Act so-and-so, or we use Michigan compiled laws, so on. I don't know if you really want to change that has some historic significance, but if you want to do the modern version of that, we can give you the modern citation.
Probably should make it modern, put it,
Bring it up to date.
yeah.
When we go to propose this to people and they see that as a change, how many people are gonna be like, well, I don't understand what the difference is here? And like, we're introducing opportunity for people to vote against it just because they don't understand. So it might be better to leave something like that and focus more on the things that are actually gonna have a bigger impact on how this is actually utilized.
That makes sense to me. It does say formally incorporated. So, I mean, having an antiquated term seems relevant to it being formally.
I think, yeah.
We can, finesse that by saying by law or by statute or so on also, but, this has a little tinge of nostalgia or a little tinge of, I don't know, whatever it is.
It's got the patina of time.
Patina of time.
A nice phrase.
Steal that one.
Yeah, you got that. That's,
Yeah, I would leave it.
yeah.
Kind of gives you that historical flavor.
And then, the alteration of boundaries, need to insert something to the effect that the clerk shall keep the definition or the description, the legal description, and all of the documents that are necessary to define the boundaries. And some charters you will take a look at, they will give you the legal description of what the city is. But it may change. You may annex some property or so on that, just so that people know that the territory may be attached or detached from the city provided by law, and such attachments or so on will be recorded and kept by the clerk. General municipality, I have, no comments, except this, reference there. Everybody knows that, MCLA 117.1 is the Home Rule Cities Act, and you will see that sort of sprinkled, throughout that. Additional powers, I know you put in reasonably. You had to tell the city council that they should act reasonably?
We talked about it at length. I remember that meeting.
No, it's not a legal consideration. The only consideration is, if, I said, sending a message that they gotta act reasonably. So, and implied in that is they have not acted reasonably in the past?
I think it was more implied that other communities have not acted in a way that we would necessarily find reasonable.
Okay,
So it's like more of an prevent abuse of power type of thing, or make bad decisions that don't actually,
and then it would, the follow-up question, of course, would be is if they act unreasonably, what is the remedy or solution? Is that a violation of the ethics provision? Or is this just one of those aspirational comments that you want them to aspire to act reasonably without any consequence for unreasonable action?
I think this would be an aspirational thing, because your definition of reasonable and my definition of reasonable are gonna be two different things, and if we try and define what reasonable is, that road's too long to go down. I think aspirational is,
I would imagine, in theory, if a citizen were really had the time and the money that they could sue, say this city commissioner acted unreasonably, and according to the charter, they're not allowed to do so. And then the result of them suing that commissioner would be the loss of the commissioner's seat, or the undoing of whatever it is that they had done, or I don't know, it would come down to that, but
Just think about,
seems pretty unlikely.
respond to any lawsuit, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
And are you, are you inviting a lawsuit? Are you inviting a challenge of some sort? Are you inviting somebody to come to city? I don't know, I'm throwing this out.
Yeah, I mean,
To come to City Hall and say, hey, Forrest, you're not acting reasonably. You're supposed, this is unreasonable.
well, so I would say, first of all, if a citizen wants to bring a case, it's going to be more, the barrier for them to bring a case is going to be greater than the barrier of the city to defend itself. The city has attorneys on retainer, right? Most individuals do not. So an individual who does not have an attorney on retainer that wishes to bring a suit, either it's gonna get thrown out immediately by the judge, or they're gonna have to spend a lot of their own money to make that suit happen. Now, I don't think that it's our job to strictly defend the city against everything with our work here. I think that it's our job to balance what is reasonable for the city to be defended from, while also giving our citizens a reasonable chance of bringing cases when they think it's within their means and their duty to do so.
And the only caveat I would ask is make it clear as to what you expect the city officials to do and not do.
Well, let me ask you a legal question, because you're our legal consultant. There's the issue of elected officials being indemnified against litigation, is there not? As a result of holding public office? So how does that factor in?
In Michigan, again, there are two areas of lawsuits that we have to talk about. Is in the federal courts, violation of federal laws, specifically the 1983 Civil Rights Act, Section 1983 of the Civil Rights Act, and which has some immunity, but going to, under normal cases where somebody would sue under reasonableness or lack of reasonableness or so on, under Michigan law, the highest elected official are immune from tort liability, these kind of liability, unless they are acting in the most egregious, malicious manner. So they have almost total immunity for, let's put it this, non-criminal act. The highest official or the highest appointed official, so that the clerk, for example, is the highest appointed official in the city. There are no higher appointed. There's the clerk, the manager, and so on. So you would have a great deal of immunity on that. The police officers, so on, their immunity is they have to be in the course of their employment, and they have to act in a reasonable, or I can't think of the word right now, but basically they can't act in a malicious, willful and wanton manner. And then they also have immunity. So there is immunity for elected officials in exercising their discretion under state law. That's clear, that would be clear.
They're immune from like personal liability, like someone can't sue them for money.
Correct.
But someone could sue them for actions they took as a commissioner, that the result would be that those actions would be undone, or that they would lose their seat. Am I right or wrong? I don't know, I'm asking.
No, you're, injunctive action, and you would, again, let's go back to some basics here. An individual council member has no power whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you can't undo by one individual council member. You would have to sue the whole city council and join them, or get some sort of injunctive relief. There would not be immunity from that, because that would probably be a constitutional violation, either under state law or federal law. We know that zoning cases, we frequently are sued. The city is sued for violation of zoning, and there's no immunity for that. And it does not go to the individual person. I'm not sure, Jennifer, if I've answered your question on that.
So my concern with, if I recall, we added reasonable in because without that, this section basically says the city and its officers can do any act to advance the interest of the city. And we didn't like the carte blanche, any act, which is why we put reasonable in there. 'Cause there are actions that occur that people may or may not consider reasonable. And legal is one definition of what is reasonable and what is not, but it's not, legal is not fully inclusive of that.
I don't have memory of anything ever, but that sounds right to me.
That sounds right to me.
I believe Anne was the one who requested this, so I'm really sorry she's not here right now. I think she would be able to provide the best perspective on this particular phrase.
It makes sense to me, like, I don't wanna give them carte blanche, like you said, like, any act to advance the interests of the city, well, it's like, the city is kind of an entity unto itself beyond the citizens, like, the commission could choose to advance, an action that helps the city at the expense of the citizens.
I will tell you, I have defended city councils in a whole bunch of courts where the court basically says, yeah, this was a dumb act by the city council, but it's not against the law, and your case is dismissed.
Yeah. But would the court say that it was reasonable?
No, it may, like you say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and, you know, it's not, the basic determination, at least in my experience, is it's not against the law, or it's not a violation of the law, or a clear violation of the law, and the case is dismissed.
But if we have this in our charter, and someone were to try to make the case that the commission acted unreasonably, then it would violate the charter, and they could be held accountable. That's the purpose of having reasonable, right?
And in the ethics provision, I think we say you want to comply with the charter, the ordinances, and the resolutions of the city.
Is there a better legal term that we could use other than reasonable that implies, legal and
Good judgment.
yeah, if there's a better term, I think we would definitely be open to that. I don't know that most of us would want to go back and just allow any act again. 'Cause that's really the big concern. There should be something there, reasonable may or may not be the right word.
I think, and I have to consult with, is it Mr. Bartlett?
Mr. Bartlett?
The Theosaurus guy? We may be able to come up with a better term, and even maybe AI could come up and come up with a better term.
No doubt, no doubt.
Maybe we just add reasonable to our glossary.
And define what reasonable is.
What reasonable is.
Yeah. We just list a whole bunch of synonyms.
And we just have to make sure we don't have reasonable elsewhere or these things up. We could make up a word and give it a definition.
Yeah.
I like that.
You know, it's funny that we're struggling in trying to say, you know, we want the council to make good decisions.
Yep. That's where we pushed our government to, you know?
Grounded, well-reasoned.
Let's see what we can come up with. The exercise power, I really didn't find any issue there on, on 2.3, do we want to make, where you're saying that the city may exercise its power, like a provision for cooperative ventures with other municipality, joint ventures, contracts, mutual aid contracts and those, to give some reference to those. There's nothing to prohibit it. There's state law that allows for that, but is that a good consideration? That, you know, especially what's our population, under 10,000, right? We can't have all of the services at 100,000 type thing. We may want to do activities with either a township, I don't know, you don't have a joint fire department, do you?
Well, in fact, our fire department has taken over the operation of Big Rapids Township Fire Department. We're more likely to provide services elsewhere than
So maybe we should,
services to
maybe we
us.
should say, make a reference that we will cooperate with other units of government to the extent provided by law to provide governmental services.
We do that with water, with sewer, with the fire department now, with,
Okay,
so.
And actually, regional cooperation was part of our language of the preamble as well.
Karen, what currently, since we don't have that in here, as far as I recall, what currently allows us to go into like agreements with the township and things like that?
That was a contract that they did originally for a short time, and I don't know, I'd have to look and see.
Yes, yes.
Something that the city attorney worked with, I mean, the townships, it was like collaborative effort between them and us.
There's specific legislation that allows for joint fire departments, cooperation fire departments, water departments, there's specific law. But there is not specific legislation for a joint DPW, snow removal, or maybe garbage service.
I think
So on.
that normally falls under the county or is contracted by the city for those other things.
For what?
Contracts out,
Like Big Rapids Township would be bought by the county
Oh,
of
yeah.
Acosta.
Yeah,
We
that's,
do that.
the township, well, they still, actually, the county is responsible for the township roads.
Correct.
So, I don't know if the county would, I guess they could contract with the city to provide the services for the township. You know, that could be, but, I just make a statement in there that, to the extent, is provided by law and or not prohibited by law, and it's in the best interest of the city to work in a cooperative manner, something like that. We'll put, I'd like to put in that paragraph. The next one is 2.4. City shall succeed in possessing all records, documents, and all other property. And I want to make sure that that includes real as well as personal property. You know, the real estate, that there's no question about that. So I would add real and personal property inside and outside the boundaries, all privileged, et cetera. Again, for clarity's sake on that.
No problem with that.
Then we go, 2.6, we've beaten Code of Ethics.
What personal property does the city continue to own? Like,
Trucks, filing cabinets, you know, those, all the property that's not real is considered personal property. But
by real, you mean like land?
real estate like land, and I want to make sure land that, that we, it's clear that we continue to own the land. Obligations, of course, continue to pay the legitimate bills of the city. Ethics, we talked about. City Commission. City Charter has there been any, what can I say, dissonance or any static between City Commission, mayor form of government versus city manager? So that frequently comes up, But that's good, that is not one that, so I have on this one. And I have, in that one, am I missing something, but the provision to what's required by city ordinance? I was previously read that, I thought that,
What are you looking at, Peter?
I'm looking at 3.2. Power and authority to adopt laws, ordinance, resolution considered proper when. All right, I don't remember what I did with that. I may come back to revisit it. Under 3.3. Documentation records shall be property of the city. I want to make sure that those are, there's no question that whoever it is, that it's the clerk's property, and that they are timely provided to the clerk. If that's an issue, but I know that the cemetery commission and the historic, they kind of work as their own entities and they don't kind of cooperate. So I would add some language to the boards and commissions about the documentation and that it belongs to the city. The question I have, and I don't know if you, going down to B, to elect the officers of the various boards and some we call commissions, some we call committees, some we call different, and we'll put that in a definition when the all refers to appointed or so on committees on that, we'll put that in a different. But who designates the chair of the boards and committees? Do they do it themselves?
Vote on it.
And do you want to let them vote on it, or do you want to let the city council designate the chair of the committee?
We want to let them, leave them voting on it.
Isn't that what B says? All city boards shall elect officers?
Yeah.
So that seems pretty clear to me, that the
Well, no,
boards-
I'm asking as a policy for the city. You want to let that continue because there are many places where the mayor and or the city council designates who the chair will be.
I think this has been working pretty well for us, having the board itself determine who's going to be the chair.
They approve who's on the board, and then the board themselves
Okay.
votes.
Which is another thing, the selection process, I had a question on that. Okay, we'll just leave as is. Just a little bit of language that jumped out at me. No person shall be a member of more than one city board at one time without specific permission. How about approval instead of permission? Kind of sounds like, anyway, it's fine. And then the same thing in terms of the language in F. Qualifications do not apply. Different membership membership qualifications are prescribed by the state or the city charter. We could just say unless, and I'm picking on words, I'm editing words. Okay, whenever position of board, city commission shall fill according to the section of this charter, the clerk shall publicize, and here we have publish or publicize, what we, the vacancy on that. And there we have the section 5.3 of the charter. I would just say in accordance with this charter. Tell me, what two paragraphs did you, going down to compensation commission, you've adopted the ordinance that deals with compensation commission. That seems to have worked well. I take it, how long have you had the compensation commission?
Yeah, it's,
There's no problems with that, or they meet and,
No, they have a schedule for meeting and they do their thing,
yeah,
make their recommendations.
it's infrequent,
Working
it's
out
not,
pretty well.
yeah.
and again, appointed by the mayor and approved by the city, okay. It's, proper term would be nominated, but leave appointed. Then again, we have, yeah, we had in subsection 3.5E, we make a reference to charter, section 3.3 of the charter. We had to change that because of, again, I would say as authorized by the charter. And that language is a little bit awkward. The mayor shall make nominations when an eligible nominee first becomes available. Does that mean that the first person who comes available to serve that position gets the position or is nominated, or does he have a pool of people to select from? What does that language tell me?
Well, actually, what the process is that individuals fill out an interest indicator to express their interest in serving on the board. And then those names go before the commission, and effectively they're just, unless there's a problem with an individual.
When they come in, there's a designation on the back, you can choose what committees you're interested in. So we look at where the holes are, and then we send that to that department head, and then they call and discuss that, whatever, and then we have a process that we go through, and then
So
come forward.
what the language in the charter is saying is that the mayor can't sit on an application or that someone's put forward, right? If someone said, hey, I'm willing to serve on a board, the mayor can't be like, I'll do that later. They have to
All of it
go
here
right
before
away.
he even
Yeah.
knows it's, yeah.
That's why we had changed the language here, because based on how it was worded before, the mayor could say, oh, I'm not really a fan of this person, so I'm not gonna allow it to move on to the next step. Go to the commission for approval. So it was like, once we have someone eligible, it goes to the commission. It can't be held up by the mayor specifically.
Okay.
That was the intent with that language change.
And honestly, we all have it before the mayor even knows it exists, so it's the chances of
It's
him.
been vetted
It has been.
through a few layers by that time.
Yeah, we have that language, the old language of the mayor makes the nominations.
Because when it's gone through the entire process, it goes before the commission. And so he'll say, he, I guess, nominates them, if that's what we're doing, but, yeah. And then they approve or don't approve, which they always approve at that point, but.
So we have this pool of applicants. He chooses,
I think pool is generous.
Generous.
We don't have a pool.
There's not always a pool. We've been getting more lately, which is good, but there's not always a pool. So, I mean, that is a generous term for,
assuming theoretically, if you have a pool of two people
For one position.
for one position, or there's more than one person for one position, the mayor here puts forth the nomination of one person, right?
Does he actually say, I nominate? I don't think I've ever
doesn't say nominate.
any mayor say, I nominate this individual.
They don't. One, and normally it's either they are coming up for another term, or we very seldom have more than one person vying for a seat.
I understand, but we gotta write this charter for.
I know, I'm just saying, he doesn't, at that point, while we've only come into this
You know what we.
recently, but that's not.
Normally do, contrary to what the language of the charter is, we sort of by chit chat with each other, who do you like, who do you think it's going to be? And, does anybody object to, Joe serving and,
I will tell you, we just had an instance here not too long ago, the first one that I've seen since I've worked here anyway. The mayor makes the recommendation for Big Rapids Housing Commission. Who
Okay.
sits on their board.
okay,
We had two people vying for that one seat.
okay,
They both come forward, everybody gets a copy of their interest indicator, they're able to speak if they want to, neither one of them did. And then it goes up before a vote of all 5 commissioners and who,
So what you're saying is the mayor put both candidates before the
Yes.
commission and let the commission make the
and the
decision?
commission
the
decided.
mayor doesn't make a nomination.
Really?
No, nomination is not the
Yeah,
right word
I
for
could
that.
see us changing that language, right? It's not that the mayor is gonna nominate someone, it's that the mayor is going to,
Present.
Present the name, that's what I was thinking.
yeah,
Present candidates for the commission, commission's consideration. Approval.
as many, and like, we're gonna have to wordsmith it, but as many people as are currently applying to the available position.
You know, and
Right,
it,
not necessarily the first one, but it doesn't matter whether somebody got in the day after the position became available or 10 days after, so long as they both got in before the next commission meeting.
but you know, more than likely, it's probably the clerk or the manager who gets these applications and presents them, here's what we got, council, and take a look at it and you make your decision.
Well, I don't present it to them. I let him do that here. But behind the scenes, they come to me, I send them out, we vet them, they have to be compliant with the city, they're not in default of the city.
yeah.
They have to, there's certain requirements that you have to meet. And then the mayor is aware of who is going to be on that list for that Monday night. Well, actually, everybody is, because all of the commissioners, they get a packet, so.
I think the text here is more implying that it has to be the mayor who initiates this section rather than the other 4 commissioners. More so than like a specific,
And the other, the thing that I read here is the mayor can't hold it.
Right.
He's got to present it timely.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
the mayor can't be like, well, I don't like this. this
That's what,
candidate.
I'm
Wait
reading
till
this
there's more.
from the language of that you said that, when it first becomes available.
And the reason we say that is because we have traditionally had a really hard time finding people volunteering. These are volunteer positions, so stepping up to serve.
I was going to say, the charters I did up north, you have to have 9 people or there are 9 positions. We had a real tough time, and we ended up with 8. We still had a quorum, and I wasn't sure whether we could function with just 8 names, but AG's office didn't have a problem with that, so as long as we had a quorum. But no, I think that again, is this an aspirational type of a thing that, the mayor shall make, his nominations timely? But you had not more than 40, you took out the 45 days.
Well, the reason for that is that because sometimes when they come in, our meetings are the first and third Monday of the month, depending on when, if there's an election or not. Sometimes you're really pushing it to get it through the whole process and get it here in the 45 days, by the time we get it, and if it's, so that's why they took that out. So, right? Was that the discussion we had on that?
It's possible that no one is willing to serve within 45 days.
That's also the case too. That is also the case.
Like, you can't make people volunteer.
Yes.
Hey, it's been 44 days. It's your turn.
And adding on to what Karen said, we also increased the 15 days for the commission to 45 days. So if something has to be bumped from a meeting or something, it doesn't like restart the whole process or really throw a monkey wrench in there. So we tried to make it easier for things to actually work, knowing with a schedule that things are complicated.
Yeah, 15 days, I mean, that's,
Nothing, yeah.
it goes very fast.
Tell me, what is the commission's desire in terms of the mayor's duties in fulfilling boards and commission seats? What do you want the mayor to do? Do you want him to make, assuming we have a pool now? Do you want him to make a nomination within a short time period for the council's commission's consideration, or do you want him just to process all of the applications to the commission?
I think it would be the latter.
I do too, yeah.
We would want that, the commission to be able to choose amongst those people.
Yeah, I don't think that it's not, my impression is that our goal is not to give the mayor special powers so much as to require the mayor to perform a basic function and service of the commission at large.
Yeah. This resolution reads something like, resolution adopting the approval of mayor's recommendation to X board. I mean, it's really a recommendation. I mean, I'm just pulling that off the top of
No,
my head.
I understand, but that's the standard way of doing it. How about the mayor shall present the qualified applicants to the commission?
That sounds good.
That sounds, I like that better than nominating,
Yep.
which is not what he's in fact doing.
Like, as soon as those qualified applicants qualified, I don't know. There's gotta be a better way of saying that, but what you said, but with the addition of the mayor doesn't get to sit on this.
Well, that's why, I think there's a misconception here. The mayor does not see these until, they don't go to the mayor
Yeah.
until the very end of this process. They come to
They
us.
don't go to him
and we-
until he's sitting up there.
Right, he'll know in advance, you know, but it's not like they're getting emailed directly to the mayor and he's deciding who's,
Well, then,
It's currently worded
know what I'm saying?
poorly to explain what actually happens.
well, you're doing all this, behind the scenes of qualifying and so on, and then you give this stack of 20 applicants for this one position to the mayor and say, okay, here are your
Talk about aspiration.
Right.
here are the qualified applicants, and then the mayor presents it to the council and saying that here it is, or if you want to have the city manager do that, or the clerk in this case, the clerk shall present the qualified applications to the city council, commission. I get council and commission back,
I think our clerk does enough work.
She's doing it anyway.
I am doing that anyway, but
Yeah, she is doing that anyway.
I hope that we have that problems, it's not a problem. it makes me delighted to think that maybe someday we would have 20 people turn in an interest indicator for one board. That has not been the case at all. So I just don't.
I mean, I think
we're
what
making-
Peter's asking is, do we want them, is the person that we want doing this job in the charter the mayor? Not
Well-
whether or not it happens, it's,
I understand that. It's up to, I mean, I think he's the one who presents it at the commission meeting.
So we could say that, he presents qualified candidates of all boards and commissions to the city for approval.
and that's,
Right.
I'm assuming that's in large part not because it's not something that you haven't already done as the clerk. It's because the clerk doesn't have the same privileges in a commission meeting that the mayor has to speak and to participate. Am I wrong?
Right, well, and I don't have voting rights or any of that either, so
You can't even speak unless you're called on.
I'm very well behaved.
Let me ask, do you like in a timely manner or expeditious manner?
Timely.
Want this in layman's terms?
I have no strong opinion either way.
Where is that?
I think that he's trying to meet our.
Or just meet the
Comes
qualifications there?
available.
I have,
Yeah, I
mayor
like-
shall
I
present
like timely as well.
qualified candidates in a timely manner.
I might venture something more specific at the first meeting, commission meeting, possible.
But what does that mean?
As soon as the applicants are, if you get applicants, the next meeting is when the mayor would present it. Timely is, what does that mean? Oh, it doesn't fit onto this week's
So then the first-
agenda, let's
first
do it
available
next week.
meeting.
Well, now there's an extra candidate, because they didn't like, I'm like, it
I know,
doesn't seem likely, but
right, it's fine.
Well, when, the only issue there, I suppose, is how much is on the agenda. Of course, that doesn't take a whole lot of time to approve
Right.
that.
We have deadlines that we have, well, you're in another committee. And when you renew, or when you're originally on that committee, or when we have to renew you, that all goes before the commission, they get in their packet, and then it comes forth, and they,
I'm not sure that the term vetted is a legal term, but you know what, we work out the language, mayor shall present at the next
Next regularly scheduled,
meeting after the candidates are
seems
vetted.
better than timely to me.
it's definitely more specific and
what
clear.
did you say? I didn't even hear what you said, I'm sorry.
The next regularly scheduled meeting of the commission.
Is when he will present those?
You would present those.
So we could also take out the whole mayor portion of this where when a nominee comes available, it gets put on the agenda for the city commission to approve. It doesn't say who has to nominate or recommend it. But then it comes out of the mayor section and it's up to the section on, boards and commissions and getting people on it.
I think that is a job that the mayor enjoys doing, don't you? I think you were on the commission, don't you think that meant something to, or no?
Not the members of the board?
I think the mayor likes to be the person who is.
I present these people.
Presenting the candidate?
Yes, I do.
I mean, I think that my impression is that we don't have a strong mayor. The mayor doesn't have that much weight to pull, right? So when they do get a special privilege, even if it's not an important one, it differentiates them as the mayor instead of just a standard commissioner.
Some of our boards they're pretty important. Oh, they're all important.
I have no problem reading
They
it.
all are, but some of them have,
I have no
No.
problem.
I hate to take it away from the mayor, quite honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think that we're giving the mayor any special power by
No, it goes,
resting this responsibility in their arena.
So
before a vote.
let's go back to the mayor shall present qualified candidates at the next regularly meeting after, the qualified candidate at the next regular meeting.
So what happens if I get an application from somebody and they only wanna be on X board and we don't have any openings on that board? So how is he gonna present that at the next,
He's not going to present it.
Qualified candidate?
so that's not
You
considered
send it
qualified then?
back to the candidate, and you scratch out planning and put down zoning board of appeals.
Well, I'm just saying, I wanna make sure that we're not tying hands here, that, because that's not always, we do get that once in a while too. Oh, I only wanna be on that board. Well, there's no openings on that board right now.
And the commission wouldn't consider someone for a seat that's not available.
No, I know that, but I just wanna make sure that we're not
Leaving it open.
being too.
I see.
All right, we'll give you that language, and again, I'll give you the language, and you can.
Maybe we could say, when an eligible candidate comes available for an available seat, or an open seat, or something like that.
And the other thing is, do you have time limits for, for submission of applications? You know, in other words, a vacancy occurs. Do you leave it open forever until you fill it, or do you?
Is there another way?
What do you suggest?
I would think, you know, like, typically we cut them off in 30 days, you know, you have.
What do you do?
You don't have to sleep.
And then we go to sortition?
Because we don't have people coming.
That is,
No, then we're just.
it's like a lottery where
Let's
it's like everyone that's eligible, you just draw a name out of a hat. It's your turn to
Well,
serve,
we're not in that position yet, so.
basically.
You will be.
Pulling up long.
I think that like actually federal government should be.
Lately, for some reason, I don't know if everybody's out there talking,
would
but we're
remove
getting a lot
parties.
more interest indicators right now, which is, and by that, I don't mean I'm sitting on a stack of them.
Right.
But
Be a bad thing.
Just think,
Historically, it's been an issue getting.
absolutely, yeah.
The ancient Greeks did it that way, by the way.
So we're trying to get,
pat yourselves on the back, because you're stirring up some interest in what's going on in the city with all of the outreach that you guys appears to be, you're doing. There's a lot of conversation as to what's going on in the city. All right, I think I have the consensus of what the board, or this commission wants on it. Under F, the State of the Union message. Why does the mayor give the State of the Union message?
State of the city.
Or, yeah, I'm sorry, State of the, it's State of the Union.
I was like, wow.
State of the city or so on. I know that's typical, but isn't it really the council? I mean, back off a little bit on this. Isn't it really council that sets the policy, the direction of the city? The mayor is, you know, he kisses the baby, signs the document, and shakes the hands.
He is the chair of the council.
Understand. You know, and he's presenting his wishes. And is that state of the city message, is that a direction to the city manager as to what the goals are for the city? That's typically what the state of the,
Ideally,
yes.
that's the world I like to live in. The state of the city should kind of summarize what's gone right, you know, the good things that have happened in the city over the course of that year. Certainly highlighting achievements. It should also identify challenges that are perceived and possible ways to address those challenges. It's really meant, in my estimation, it's meant to be a report that the citizens need to hear so that they get kind of a more comprehensive picture of what the city has been doing, what they have accomplished, what is coming up in the future that is going to pose challenges, what are some ways we might be addressing those.
You give the specific direction, a state of the city report coinciding with the start of each fiscal year, advising the general public of the specific issues facing the city of Big Rapids and the goals that might be achieved in the next year.
It is, it could be very logically connected with the strategic plan. You know, the point of having the strategic plan is to lay out goals, short-term, like 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, to ideally give people a sense of direction, where the government's taking us as a community. That's just my.
This looks like somebody lifted this paragraph 50 years ago from the strong mayor form of government,
Yeah.
where the strong mayor gives he's the one that sets the direction for the city. And are you creating a fallacy, or are you shortchanging the other members of the commission by not allowing them to participate in establishing the goals of the city?
Well, they do
actually
they do
disallow
need to be a
those.
part of establishing the goal. That's their purpose in doing the strategic planning.
Yeah,
Absolutely, they need to be participating in the
So-
goals of the city.
It allows the mayor or their designee, so the mayor cannot take the opportunity to do it. So it's not precluding other commissioners from it, per se.
it could be, or typically this allows the city manager to give the message. That's what I read here, what the designee is. I'm looking much more towards the philosophical setting of the direction for the city. If it's the strategic plan, if you have a strategic plan that you update every year, then that should be the message, is that, I mean, that seems to be.
So, I mean, a counter question would be, if the mayor isn't the person that presents this, what differentiates the mayor from any other commissioner? Like, what's the point of having a mayor at all?
Preside over the meeting.
I mean, like, it seems like the mayor seems to me to be the public figurehead.
Correct.
The mayor is the bridge between the commission and the public. So it's, right? Like,
Yeah, this is another perk.
Theoretically.
Being the mayor.
yeah,
Along with
you do the PR, right?
He signed, the mayor signs the contracts, the mayor attends, can do marriages, can marry people, which is kind of cool. The mayor is often,
the
is a
ribbons.
public figure, the public face.
Tell me, what has been the tradition here in Big Rapids about the state of the city message? Do we get one every year, and does the mayor deliver it?
For all of the, all of the time I was on the commission, that includes the commission prior to this one, the mayor delivered, he wrote out the state of the city report, did these things. I've never known them not to, in my experience, so I don't know that I go back all that far, so. But also, the city commission has only really just started embracing strategic planning in the last few years. And I know they've just had a consultant in to get them going on that. Ideally, strategic planning should help guide the goals that are given to the city manager, which then become the basis for how they evaluate the city manager. If you want to look at it all together that way.
So I guess if the mayor says, this is my interpretation, this is my view of the city, these are my goals, then that's fine. Because I'm just.
Recently, I mean, the mayor, in the last report that he gave, really didn't put out any goals. I think he just highlighted the achievements and all the good things and balancing of budgets and certainly a number of projects that get completed and so forth. So.
I would hate to have a council member say, hey, Mr. Mayor, I don't agree with paving Main Street as one of our goals for this year.
Why?
Because they want to pave Oak Street instead.
No, I mean, why do you have a problem with that? Why do you have a problem with a commissioner saying, I don't agree with you, Mayor?
Oh, no, I don't have a problem with that as such. I'm just saying that might be a a conflict that the mayor is not representing the whole commission when he gives state of the city. If we give the mayor's report,
I mean, that would be true no matter who gave the report, wouldn't
And
it?
the mayor does not,
Couldn't the manager, the city manager, do the same thing? Couldn't any commissioner do the same thing? No matter who presents it, they're gonna present their own biases. And if there are commissioners or the city manager or citizens who don't buy it, who don't like it, who disagree with it, then they have whatever rights and privileges within their means to publicize their own beliefs, right?
that's where I was going when I asked about, has this worked here in Big Rapids? And, the only changes you have made is it's going to be posted on the city's website, and you're going to let a designee present, you want the written report, and the verbal, the oral report will be by the mayor or his designee. Why designee? What happened, what caused that to happen, or?
I think that's a preventative measure we added in a lot of places, so that way if one specific person is not available, it doesn't just halt the order of things. Or if, someone thinks someone else would be a better person for a particular reason, they can designate to that person. So it just gives some flexibility, rather than saying it always has to be this person every time. I think there were instances later on where it says, it specified that the clerk had to do something. But the clerk wanted to go on vacation sometimes, or was sick sometimes, and we needed to have designee in there to allow someone else to fill in.
most likely that designee would likely be the city manager.
Yeah.
But if we're talking again, if it's a perk of the mayor, to be able to stand in.
I don't know that they would consider it a perk necessarily. For some people, that's a chore.
Someone else.
Does the manager write the message for the mayor anyway?
At least
I
since
think
I've been here,
the mayor may confer with, because a lot of projects get taken care of over the course of a year, and of course, it's always a good idea, I think, to check back with the city manager and kind of get a timeline of what has occurred, what has been accomplished.
The public information officer doesn't write the speech for the mayor?
I don't think we have a public information.
Is
Is that Steve? I'm not sure.
Steve would be the
Call
closest.
Steve up. Hey, Steve, guess what?
We got a job for you.
You might want to start writing now.
I'm not even sure, I don't know how many people pay attention to it. Is that, I
Yeah, I
don't know
don't
if I should
think,
say that out loud.
Say that out loud.
At this,
yeah, I think that's accurate.
I don't know. Personally, I think it's an important function for the mayor to do, but that's just me.
I mean, I would agree.
I agree.
I would think that it's something that, a reputable news publication would seize upon. I'll just leave it at that.
They can print it, they can print it.
It's not whether or not they can,
Well, if you send it
it's
to them.
whether or not they do. Or take advantage of the opportunity, not just to print it, but to explain to the public why it's relevant, right? You might not print the entire thing in its entirety, you might seize upon certain elements that you thought the public might want to engage with. Or you could just state that it happened and assume that no one cares, or do nothing. That's the prerogative of a news publication. I don't think highly of our
Have
newspaper.
we thoroughly confused you?
That's
No,
right.
no,
I wasn't sure whether Peter was catching on to that.
it's unfortunate that the printed media has gone to where it is now, and where the electronic media is, it's just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's, yeah.
I just like the idea that it is published on your website, and that's the source of legitimate city information is the website, you know, that's where you go. You don't go to the newspaper. You go to your website.
For one thing, certainly a discussion or a description of the various projects that have been completed over the course of the year gives the public a visual picture of where their tax money is going. That it's not being squandered. It's actually going to benefit this community and its residents. Upkeep, maintenance, beautification, perhaps providing infrastructure for, like what we did with Mechanic Street was really important. There was a parcel of land, we're trying to address the housing shortage, right? So the city entered into a partnership with our housing commission. We purchased this big space of land, created plats of, for houses. We provided the infrastructure. We put the plumbing in, we made sure the electricity was set up, all that good stuff, and then they went in and built homes, which are now sold, single families. So that's the cycle of that is your tax money being put to good use. And I think that's one of the values of a comprehensive state of the city report. The other thing, certainly, we're coming into this weird period now with financial stuff being very uncertain. And with the result of all the tariffs being laid, the costs of things are going to rise exponentially, particularly for construction projects. Not to mention groceries, all that good stuff. So again, whether or not citizens are concerned about those kinds of things, if they even think about those kinds of things, I think it helps to hear from city government that we are aware of this. These are things we're thinking about that we can do to redress this, et cetera, et cetera.
This little paragraph, this paragraph F, gives the city officials and employees a direction. Where do they want to go? Or where does the what can I say, the policymakers of the city, what direction are we given? Because we can go we can pave Oak Street or Cherry Street or so on. We need to get some guidance.
Well, we have a process for that. This, what we call our CIP process, which is our capital investment plan. And what every department does within themselves is to identify the projects that need doing, and then they prioritize them, right? And they tell the city government how much they think they're gonna need, either like right now or over a period of years or ever. So that conversation takes place over months.
I don't think that the mayor's report really dictates the direction the city is going. I think what it does is again, the mayor is, in my view, the link between the commission and the public. So when the public has an issue with something, right, it puts the mayor as the person that the public should demand things from and interact with, which I think is actually a blessing to the city manager, right? Instead of the city manager dealing with a bunch of people from the public, the mayor is the person dealing with the public. I'm not necessarily saying that's how it works, but that's what we're setting the mayor up to do by giving them this job and this role, right? And the mayor could be like, I don't want that role. I'm gonna designate the city manager or the city clerk or whoever I want to deal with these people or to be the public face. But we're encouraging them to be the public face and to interact with the public in such a way that it takes the heat off of the rest of the city government so that they can do their jobs instead of field phone calls.
Take note, in that paragraph, it says coinciding with the beginning of the fiscal year, which implies, the budget, prior to the budget, so that we determine our budget based on the message.
No, I mean,
No,
it doesn't give them that response. It doesn't give them that power. It just says this is when they do it.
okay, if everybody's good with that.
Nobody has to. The commission isn't obligated to do whatever the mayor says in speech that
Well, I
they
guess,
present.
you know, if you wanna compare that to the federal State of the Union message, the president does give his direction and then and Congress then goes off and does their thing.
Yeah, I mean,
And the governor with her state of the state. It's the same.
you know, it's like the people that are on the president or the governor's side might be, you know, compelled to do their best to make their leaders' wishes and goals become reality, but those that are not are usually antithetical to that.
What I hear is we leave well enough alone.
Yeah, I mean,
Would it read better? Right now, the way it's stated, it is kind of pointing towards, these are the issues we're facing, these are the goals, and then that kind of leads to a direction we're pointing in. But if we started that with highlighting achievements and then explaining it so that way it doesn't seem as goal-driven, but it's just like, this is where we were in the past year, this is where we're considering going in the next year type of thing. Whereas right now, it's all kind of future-facing based on how it's worded.
I mean,
And I think that's more of how it's actually utilized right now.
I think that's a pretty aspirational section unto itself. I think that most mayors are probably gonna approach it with their own style, and that no one's really gonna hold them to the charter and be like, hey now, you didn't cover the goals of next year. You only covered, or you didn't mention the significant issues that the city is facing. And it's, I mean, we could probably be less prescriptive,
Or we
right?
could say, they have to present the state of the city report coinciding with the start of each fiscal year and not explain what it is, and they can make it whatever they want it to be.
That's what they're gonna do
I
anyway.
sort of like your ideas of reporting the achievements of the city, you know, to, you know, just make a reference to the achievements of the city, what's been accomplished. And then let the drafter of the message go from there.
I certainly think the spirit is not so much to be prescriptive, but just to be like, this is the gist of what we were thinking, run with it. Like, write a report.
I'm gonna take a shot at this also. The next item I have is the Mayor Pro Tem. All is well, I'm just wondering that you have that the three people who are left, if you don't have the mayor, or you don't have Mayor Pro Tem, do you have just the three constituting a quorum? They select their chair. Would it be easier just to say that instead of a vote or potential fight, the longest continuing serving member shall chair?
I'd rather have them vote.
You like the vote?
Yes, I don't.
We haven't had any problems with that, I take it?
I'm not-
Typically what happens is who wants to conduct the meeting today?
Not me.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's the thing. I could see the longest serving person not wanting to take on that role. I could see them having expertise that was relevant to the commission, but not necessarily in being a leader.
We'll leave it.
We have still quite a bit of chapter 3 to go through, and it's 7:35. Do you want to carry this over to next meeting?
Next time.
It's okay. This is a long and involved
Yeah,
chapter.
three's a little long.
This chapter alone, how many meetings did we have on
lot.
this? We
A
took,
lot.
we had
A lot of the stuff
meetings
that's
on this
coming up
one
today is-
chapter alone.
Causing trauma.
Yes. So, I'd like to suggest, so that we don't feel rushed and we can, avail ourselves of Peter's expertise, that we pick up at 3.7, which seems like a good place to break, and that we will pick this up at our next meeting, May 14th.
How many chapters do you cover?
Yeah, I have some additional,
I think, well, 4 is not that long. Let's go for 3 to 5. We'll see how we do. Some parts of that I don't think that's quite as much to attend to as others. And
Would you, kind of send me, you don't have a complete list of your chores, in this charter,
My chores?
yeah?
Yeah, it's in there.
I don't know off the top of my head right now, to be honest with you. I'm sure it's listed somewhere in my.
I have a list what a typical clerk does. And, you know, I'm planning on expanding, that to include, even if you don't do it now, that the clerk shall, blah, blah, blah. And if you have, or are all of your chores listed already?
For the charter?
Yeah.
I don't think the charter
believe
could
it is in here,
possibly
but you
include
can.
all of them.
Not my daily, not my regular chores. He's talking about just for this
Talking
committee.
about elections, records.
You're talking about my actual job, not, or,
Yeah, I think so.
okay, I'm not following you, I'm sorry. I thought he was talking about
Okay.
for the charter.
No. It's what you do for the chart, you're happy with what's listed there?
I'll look through it again and see if I'd like to change anything.
Because I would like to, think about power to administer oaths.
So
It's not in the charter now.
if we try to get
Some other stuff.
eight pages, or 2 pages today.
You're the official publication person, you publish all the notices.
So long as you.
we're only halfway through
That's
this one.
responsibility to find
Get
that.
through this one and finish formal power.
Oath of office is section 4.6, and it does.
Just making sure that,
It's
okay,
the clerk.
I'm fine with that, I'm just,
I didn't think it was.
like, how far do we, oh.
You were doing,
So I don't think there's a section for the clerk, there's a section that's specifically for the elections, the 4.6 is oath of office and bonds, and that's
Oh,
separate.
the
The clerk's role, so it's like,
Different oaths of office that we're talking about, of course swear those people, but administer oaths, that would basically, people come for a notary type of things, and you swear in the, employees, you sign the oath book, you have an oath book, I assume,
Absolutely.
and those, you're the one that's responsible for doing that.
3.17, responsibilities and duties of the, city attorney, no. Right.
Well, I should be up under the
One of them.
appointment, like the commission
3.13.
appoints.
Yeah.
I'm one of the,
City clerk, responsibilities and duties.
Right, I just
There's
want,
only,
I'm just asking.
more things
her
there,
to
but-
Take a look in advance to that.
okay.
Did we have fun tonight?
I think we Wang Chung'd tonight.
I Wang Chung differently than you.
It sounds very,
It's a, I'm referencing an 80s song.
You gotta let me know we're gonna Wang Chung, I just ain't got that kind of energy.
are we adjourned?
we are adjourned. Thank you. And our next meeting is May 14.
I will not be here.
You will not be here. All right.
I will be on a road trip to all the national parks. Fingers crossed for me.
I can try and get to
We're
it.
gonna fly into Vegas and then go up through California to Oregon and hit them all on the way up. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll get to.
Get in. If we don't, we'll take a picture on the outside.
Take a picture of the closed sign?
That's such a sad comment.